Welcome to update 2.4 of the StreamDeck MIdi plugin. In the control change action there are some new features, and let's start with the viewport button, where you have an option to show the MIDI value on the button, like that. If we move on to the cycle button, you now have the option to show direction indicators on the button. You also have an option to select how and if you should be able to manually switch direction of the button. And finally, you can have the button glide or fade between values instead of jumping instantly. So if I press the button, it will fade to the next value. And if you connect the cycle button to the same control as the volume fader I have, you can control the volume as normal with the faders and go to a predefined value with the cycle button. The next new feature is a new button type, a scrub wheel button that is essentially a viewport button, but it is endless. It doesn't go from MIDI value 0 to value 127. It will send the same value over and over again when you press the button, and it will just go on forever. There are some new options that you need to define, the value to send for clockwise and counterclockwise rotation. And you also need to set the send speed, how often the values should be sent when the rotation speed slider is set in the slow position and when it's set in the fast position. There is also an option to say how the button should react when you press it, if it should start repeating the values immediately, or if it should send just a single value and then wait for a while before starting to repeat. And that can be used if you want to single step the button and don't want the repetition to start immediately. If you want to have both the single step option available and having the button go both ways, you need to take a good look at the timers, so the result is what you expect when you press and double press the button. Finally, there is a new option for dual byte commands. In the command drop-down at the end of the list, there is now a number of dual byte commands available, which means that if you press the button, the plugin will send two commands. In this case, it will send command 1 and then it will send command 33. And the reason for doing that is to get a wider value range. If you have a single byte command, you can have a max value of 127. If you have a dual byte command, you can have a max value of 16,383. So you get a much better resolution. Of course, the DAW, or whatever you are connecting to, must be prepared to accept dual byte commands, otherwise it won't work. I don't think you will notice any difference on StreamDeck if you use single byte or dual byte commands, but at least you are able to use it if the target requires it. For the program change action, there are a couple of changes as well. If we look at a push button, you now have the option to send a bank select. The default is to not send any bank select command, as were the default in previous versions, but you can now select any bank to be sent along with the program change command. In the cycle button, you have the same option to display direction indicators, and you also have the same option to select whether or not you should be able to switch direction on the button. I use the same cycle file as for the control change action, where the button faded between values, but the program change action will not do that. It will go directly to the next value as before. In the MIdi control action, there are some minor changes. In the previous versions, you could have situations where files were missing, or that the plugin claimed that the files were missing even though they weren't. That has hopefully changed for the better. I have redesigned how the plugin locates files, so it should work much better if you move profiles between computers. Another change is for the VU meters, where the plugin now has a timeout and will reset the VU meter if the information flow from the DAW stops coming. So if no information is coming within 250 milliseconds, the VU meter will be reset. This will take care of situations, for instance in Studio One. If you mute a channel, Studio One simply stops sending information. And in previous versions, the VU meter was stuck in that position, but now it will be reset as it should be. That's all for this update. Thanks for watching.